This is the Chess World Championship match of 1985 between Garry Kasparov. Garry Kasparov is white and Anatoly Karpov is black. And in this position, at move 22 of the game, Anatoly Karpov, as black, has done a move. The computer, and turns out to be a mistake. He has done the move Rook C to D8. Okay, this move. Okay, and as you can see, the evaluation bar immediately goes up in favor of Garry Kasparov. And what I want you to try to do is just sit down, try to figure out why Rook C8 to D8 is a mistake. There is a very, very specific reason for this, which later on brings Garry Kasparov a very, very big advantage in the game. And so what I want you to do is figure out why is that a mistake, to be more specific. But first, let me tell you a short story of how I actually started to play chess. When I just started, I was extremely directionless. I had no idea what I was doing, and essentially because I never had really any guidance that I needed to have in order that I could actually level up properly from 800 and so on. And so what happened was I was stuck at the same ELO level for like around half a year, somewhere along this time length. And that was simply because I never had any idea what I was doing. It's not that I didn't know absolutely, because then I would have been a lot less than 800, but it's just that I didn't have the direction that I was supposed to have, so that then I could actually know what I'm supposed to learn and then improve on this. And so in this video, I'm going to specifically show you the type of content that you need to learn and the type of stuff that you need to do, and the concepts that you need to then on also go and to learn yourself, so that now you'll have the direction that you need to have in order to level up a lot faster from, let's say, for an example, 700, 800 to 1000 and even above that ELO level. The first concept that you need to have is actually to just blunder less by improving on your accuracy. And I'm going to show you how to do this. But what I suggest is that after every part, after every concept and idea that I'm showing you, what you're going to do is you're going to then go to exercise this concept specifically. So after I show you, for an example, this concept of how to play with better accuracy and to blunder less, then go on to the app that you're using and then play against a bunch of bots, okay, at your ELO level, and that will help you to, I think, go on and then improve quite dramatically. So let's start with the first concept, which is blundering less. Let me show you an example. So here we have a game between two 1200 rated players, okay? They're a little bit above the ELO level. They're a little bit above the ELO level that we're talking about, but this example, it really resembles what I'm trying to explain here. And so black has done the move Rook to E5. It's a mistake because this move doesn't really do much. If I move the queen, let's say D3 away, I could maybe threaten to kick away a rook, from what I think. And so as you can see also, it's better to put your queen here. Okay, and then the issue is that white has made a gigantic blunder, which even though he has a big advantage here, he ended up losing the game because of this. And I'm pretty sure that such one movers happen to all of you if you are below the ELO level of 1000. It's just something that happens a lot, and I can tell this as someone who has been formerly 1000. I'm currently 1700, and when I was at the 1000 ELO level, it happened a lot. Okay, so white has made the blunder queen to f4. Okay, I'm not joking. This is the actual example that I got of two 1000s that are playing, and then of course that's a blunder because, well, you can do just bishop to g5. Okay, bishop to g5, pinning and ending up winning the queen, and it's just a losing game from now on. And so this is an example of a blunders that are very common in the 1000 ELO levels, and below that, and even a little bit above that, as you have seen here. So let me show you now the solution to how to blunder less in positions like this, how to not make moves like queen to f4. in this position. If you are below the elo levels of 1100 and 1000, there's a concept that you need to understand, which is called checks, captures, and threats. And so it's like a 3-question checklist that before every move of the game that you're playing, before queen takes on e4, which happened in this example, and then queen to f4, before all of these moves, before every move that you're making, there is a question checklist that you're basically asking yourself. And when you do that, that helps you to prevent yourself from making further mistakes like queen to f4. And so the 3 questions that you're asking yourself are there any captures? Are there any threats? And is my king safe? Okay? Is my king safe is obvious. You don't want to get made in one and stuff like that. And are there any captures? Well, like this. And then are there any threats? So if I'm here, let me give you the example of are there any threats. If I'm here and I want to move my queen to f4, I'm asking myself first, is there any threat? And what I'm going to find out is that this queen, and again, you need to also not be overly focused on just one part of the board, not just be focused on this small area of the board. You need to be looking at it more broadly. If you look at the whole board and ask yourself, if I make queen to f4, are there any threats? You're going to figure out that there is bishop to g5, okay? And then what's going to happen is you're going to discard this move completely, because now you actually figure out that this is a blunder. And so the more you ask yourself these questions in game moves, in the games that you play, are there any captures, threats, and is my king safe? Checks, for an example. Also, checks is a good example of this. You're going to figure out that you just blunder less because this move checklist is going to happen in your brain a lot more. Okay? And so let's use another example for this. Okay, so this is our second example for blundering less. It's a game again between 2 1200 rated players. What I want you to do is I want you to try to figure out what is the correct move for white. And again, use the checklist that we have talked about, checks, captures, and threats, to try to figure out sort of what are the correct moves that in this position white is supposed to make. If you've just made the checklist for yourself and you've asked yourself, okay, is my king safe? Well, yeah, he's very, very safe here. Is there anything that is under threat? Well, yes, this knight, and also on the next move it can be captured, okay? It is quite trapped here because it cannot move here, it cannot move there. This is blocked as well, okay? And so the only one move that works here is knight to c1, to e1, excuse me, to e1, okay? Knight to e1, this is the only move that works here, okay? And that is only because here it's not maybe the best option for white, but at least this knight is not gonna get captured, okay, in a very, very brutal way. And so you figure this out, which is very simple example, which I know may not happen. This is the blunder, by the way, that happened here, rook to e1, because again, rook to e1 happened here because white has not asked himself what can be captured. He would have done that, and instead he would have moved knight to e1, okay? But you come to moves like knight to e1. First of all, if you're asking yourself, what can be captured? Is there any piece which is under threat? And is my king safe? You need to do that before every move that you make. And the more you're doing this, you're going to have an easier time figuring out blunders and threats on the board, and so improving the accuracy of the moves that you make. That is the first concept that just beginners from any level, from 1000, 1200, 800, all of them, they need to understand this, so that moves like again here rook to e1, that they won't happen, and so that they could actually level up. Because if you're still blundering, it doesn't matter how good of a chess player you are, you're gonna stay a beginner. This is something that you need to solve first before everything else. So now moving on to the task that you need to do is just go to the platform that you're playing in play against a bunch of bots and just ask yourself these 3 questions before every move that you make. Check, is my king safe? Are there any pieces that can be captured? Are there any threats? These 3 questions. Go now to play against a bunch of bots with those 3 question checklists in mind. Now let's move to the second thing, which is very important for chess beginners, including me as well when I just started to play chess. Understanding that you have of tactics and specific the most important 3, which are the fork, the pin, and the discovered attack. So let me show you now basically what they are. And so the first tactic, which is the fork, and we're also going to go through more complicated examples. So for the fork tactic, it's basically when one piece, like this bishop here, when he's aiming at 2 different pieces on the board. And so that's the tactic itself, okay? This is the first tactic, which is the fork. The pin is basically when, let's say the king is here, let's say the rook is here, and then there's a bishop here. So the rook itself, he cannot move, okay? Cannot move anywhere because this bishop is currently aiming at the king, okay? And that basically it sort of locks the rook to where he is. And so to actually unpin it, you cannot unpin it because then you're gonna take. But that's the idea. It's when one piece is unable to move because behind it there's a more important piece that exists. Okay, so the rook is important, but the king is a lot more important than the rook. And so that's the pin tactic. And again, we're gonna go also to more complicated examples. One example for each of them so that you could understand. And I'm also gonna tell you what you're gonna need to do to get better in each of these tactics. So now let's move to the next tactic. And so the discovered attack, the third tactic that we have, it's basically when you're moving a piece, let's say this bishop, you're moving it here, and then what you get is 2 different pieces that are aiming at the same piece. Okay, maybe not 2, or only just 1 is important. But what you're getting in, if let's say you're moving the bishop here, is what is called the discovered attack, because you've moved the piece and then the other piece, the rook here, is aiming at the king, and then it has to move somewhere, and you could then capture, oops, just a moment. And then what you could get is you could capture another piece behind it, you could do stuff with that, okay? And so this is the discovered attack, and the pin and the fork that I've just shown you. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to, for every single one of them, we're gonna go through an example, which is more complicated. So now let's move to the example of the fork, where I'm gonna give you now an exercise, which is honestly quite difficult. So it's okay to pause the video for quite some time to figure this out. And so what we have here is black. He did not recognize back then the tactic of the fork. And so he has done the blunder, which is queen to c7. Okay, queen to c7 is a blunder. And so now what I want you to do is to recognize where is the fork tactic here, which would lead the queen, the black queen on c7 away. Okay, this queen here. And so then what you're gonna get is another fork that there is on the board right now. So let's see if you can recognize that. And so I hope that you've paused the video itself. And now the fork tactic that there is bishop to e5. Okay, this computer says this wins a rook, and you're gonna see now why. If you've paused the video, you already figured this out probably. Queen takes, and now the interesting thing is that you can get your queen as white to b7, okay? And in the rook itself, if it moves here to defend the knight, well, you're just capturing it and capturing it here and winning a rook. Okay, so that's the example of the tactic itself. Okay, and even if now king moves, you can, after this, there's still the massive threat of this, and it's winning for white, as you can see. And so an example for the pin, for an example, is say that black, for an example here, he does not do the 3-question checklist. He doesn't understand it yet, and so he doesn't figure out that if he thinks that this is a free pawn, but it's not, because if he does, let's say, knight to e5, which is a blunder again, because again you need to look for threats, okay? And then white does rook to e1, okay? there's nothing really that you can do to stop him from moving pawn to f4 and then to take this knight. So again, you need to be very aware of these threats, and you do that by the three question process. This of course is a blunder, but I want you to really figure out why is queen to c7 here the huge blunder. What is the discovered attack that white has that can help him win this queen? Again, look at what is possible threatening her and another piece. And so if you've paused the video to look for this, you realize that pawn to e6 is the blunder itself, okay? Because you're focusing on a check whilst this queen is prone to getting captured. So king or rook takes, doesn't matter. The queen gets captured, and that is an example for a discovered attack. So now that you have some form of an understanding of these three tactics, what I suggest that you do is just like pause the video, go to the platform that you're playing in, the tactics that you're doing, and just like specify in the platform. I'll show you how you can do that on chess.com. Specify on the platform for specifically the three tactics that we've just talked about, specified for the fork, the pin, and the discovered attack. And so that is a very good way to understand these tactics better. Okay, so let me show you how to do that on chess.com. So on chess.com, for an example, to go to the specified puzzles, what you're supposed to do is go to puzzles on the left side of the screen, and then go to custom puzzles, press that, and it's very easy from there to basically specify. You could see on the right side of the screen. Also, a small tip that I have is if you specifically want to improve at the part of having the mental notes better. So for an example, the 3 steps, the 3 question checklist that I gave you, something that you really can do, which will help you a lot, is just take a piece of paper like this, and just on it write down the questions and the the thought process that you're gonna have. And then when you're entering a game versus a bot, for an example, you're having the mental notes just nearby you, and so you can recite them and ask yourself them, and that kind of helps to recite and remember the mental notes better. And so now what we are going to do is we're going to work on the other and the last topic, which is very important to improve as a chess beginner. The tactics and the preventing your blunders is crucial if you want to improve in chess, because everyone who is above 1100, 1000, 1200 at this elo level, they do these things. Okay, I'm 1700 elo level. I've seen how they do it, and they do it extremely good. And so now the third topic that we're going to talk about is specifically the principles that you're having in the opening. So I'm going to show you a bunch of them. And so for an example, I'm going to show you what it means when someone is saying taking over the center. And so here we have this example. Okay, I'm going to show you right now of taking over the center. Okay, and what it actually means. So we've done e4, e5, and we got an Italian game. Okay, at the Ghiuccio piano, to be more precise. And then what I've done is I've done a variation of the Ghiuccio piano, which is pawn to b4. Okay, the idea is you sacrifice here, bishop takes, and you move your pawn here, and then it's easier to take over the center here and to further develop your other pieces, the bishop and the knight, that are still in their starting position. So they accepted the gambit, and then this is what we have done. We've done pawn to c3. They moved their bishop back. The bishop retreated. And then pawn to, we've done castling first, they've done h6, and then we've done the move pawn to d4. Okay, now computer says it's an inaccuracy, but the computer claims we should have moved the queen somewhere, but in the game itself we didn't really see that. We wanted to be more precise, I wanted to be in a very good position, taking over the center, and I didn't notice that. And then my opponent has done the move pawn takes, pawn to back, and then knight here. Okay, now the issue with this is that now we can do this move. Okay, pawn to e5, which is it's not just bad for black, it's dangerous, because pawn to e5, that's deadly. It's almost a lost game. And you can already see that I'm a plus 1.9 advantage just because I've managed to get my 2 pawns here and to have this huge grasp over the center. Think about it. 2 pawns, bishop and a knight. And a queen that helps to defend, a rook that can come here, a bishop that can move here. That is, it's not simple for black. And then I've done the move pawn to e5. I kicked his knight. And you can see from this that I have an advantage just because of the huge control of the center that I managed to get. And so this is a very extraordinary example, because here I've managed to get a very, very powerful control of the center. Usually it won't happen like this, but you need to put a strong emphasis on those 4 squares and utilize it when your opponent makes mistakes like a knight to f6 and times when you can kick it off from there. And so this is an important thing you need to figure out on when you're playing chess yourself. Let's now move to the next example and I'll show you that too. Now the second thing that is very important after taking over the center is your piece development that you need to really point out too. And so I'm going to show you an example of this game that I had pawn to e4. Then what my opponent had decided to do is pawn to d6. Okay, so he tried to fill it or defense. Okay, knight to f3. This is again when I was somewhere around this 1286. Okay, and so knight to f3, pawn to e5, bishop to c4. Okay, this is the last opening move. Okay, and after this I managed to outplay my opponents, specifically because I managed to get more pieces active into the game. I'm gonna show you how it worked. Okay, he has that move pawn to c6, and I immediately decided that whatever happens, I'm developing another piece. Okay, and my idea behind that was I'm gonna get all of my pieces first before he does, and then I'm gonna have an advantage, which turned out to actually been working. After this, you've done the move knight to f6, okay, pawn to d4, takes, and then this move occurred. Now, I want you to notice out first of all how I'm immediately getting a major advantage, and that is of course because I can take, which is the only move, but also it's not just that I can take, it's that I also have 3 pieces for his 1 piece which is active, and the queen that can come out very easily and help. So pawn takes, okay, which is the great move, pawn takes back, and again here, even if he develops, I can decide to take if I want, which I don't think it's a good idea here, because I want him to take me first. Okay, I don't want to waste my moves here. Okay, I want to have a rapid development. That was my idea from the beginning. So I've done queen to e2, and again he brings out a piece himself, but I have the queen, 2 knights, and a bishop for his bishop which is pinned, his other bishop which is also pinned, and the knight. So I have 4 for his 3, and that proves out to have been very, very useful, because after this I can just I can really easily aim at him and threaten his king. And so that is the second thing that you need to be aware of, is just bring out your pieces into development as fast as you possibly can. Also, important to mention, pawn moves, okay, they're not considered developing moves, okay? They are moves that help you to develop in the future, but they themselves, they are not developing moves. So for an example, you do a move like pawn to d4, excuse me, that helps you to develop, but it's not a development move. There's a difference, because you want to focus on developing moves, not moves that just help. This is the second key thing about opening principles. Also, let me show you something else, specifically related to when your opponent does the annoying thing of bringing out their queen into the game early. I'm going to show you how to deal with this. And so the way to deal with this is, if let's say that they're doing e4, d5, let's say that a Scandinavian is happening. Again, this is from my personal experience. This is a game that I played. I was white, he was black, and I was very fortunate to have this opening. But the way to deal with early queen breeding is to just threaten the queen herself as much as possible. Think about this. This is the most precious piece that they have, okay, the queen herself. And so the more that you're aiming at it, it's kind of like gaining tempo, because the more you aim at it, the more you threaten it. It's easier also to bring out piece development into the game. That brings you a very, very easy upbringing. So let me show you an example. And as you have seen, for this queen, I've already brought 2 pieces out, which is an advantage. And now we have done the plain inaccuracy pawn to e5, which players that usually bring their queen early and are beginners, they're likely to do such stuff. Okay, so I immediately continue developing, and then after the second thing, take a look at this. He has 1 queen out, and I have 3 pieces that are already developed. Okay, 1 queen out for 3 developed pieces. This is a big advantage that you could use. Okay, if he castles and then only brings out another bishop or something like this, this is the type of thing that gives you very, very big advantage. Take a look at this, 2.3. 2.3 is a lot, okay? And so that is something that you can use. Later on, bring in the pawn here, for an example, bishop here, you're again making a threat to the queen. Okay, that can help you in the future. So in a sum up, the way to treat early queen usage is just aim everything you have at the queen. Let me now give you another rule for castling. Castling specifically for the king's safety, which is crucial. Try to castle safe, of course, as early as you possibly can. And the idea behind that is we want to do it early so that we could move on to developing and improving our positions. So here, for example, at the same game, what happened is I immediately developed everything I can and castled. Okay, at move 6, I castled. And so I wanted to try and adopt a new rule, which is at move 10, I've developed already at least 2 pieces and I've already castled, okay? And developing 3 if you're a beginner is also very much possible. And so this is the rule that I want you to adopt. At move 10, I've castled and developed 3 pieces of mine, okay? Let's now move to the next thing. So the next and the last thing before we're going to wrap up this video is why rook from c to d8, which we had in the first minute of the video. Why is this a mistake? I hope that you already got your answer. The reason that this is a mistake, and it actually ended up winning for Garry Kasparov, is because what you can do now is you can then sacrifice your queen, okay, for the 2 rooks, okay, he takes, and then rook to e8, the king moves, and then you're doing a discover check, okay, on discover check, and then you can take this rook, okay, which leaves you in an advantage of 1, okay. One pawn advantage is very, very big in games of grandmasters, especially if they're super grandmasters. And here we're also having a rook here in the middle of the enemy board, which is very, very dangerous. So that's the advantage that he had. He had now 2 rooks for a queen, which is very, very good in grandmaster games. And actually, Karpov really did resign after this because because of the 2 rook advantage that White had now. And so that is the answer for the first puzzle that we had in the opening. And so now that you have the things that you need in order to level up all the way to 1000 and above, this is the basics that have brought me to around 1200, and I'm not joking. After the half a year that I was stuck, I hired a coach to teach me these types of things because I had no sense of direction. So he gave me that sense of direction, and from there I leveled up very, very fast into 1200. From 800 to 1200 in around 3 months, 4 months, just because of the direction that I had. Now I know what I need to do, and so that was very easy to level up from there. And so these are the things that got me to around 1200. Bridging from there 1000 is very, very easy. I suggest that you go and exercise a little bit more about this, so that then you're going to have an easier time leveling up and realizing, okay, this is what I need to do. And so if you're going to exercise these things a little bit more, I think it's going to be easier for you to then go back and play against real players and improve. And so also a tip that I'm going to give you, in the games themselves, if you're playing specifically to improve, you want to play games that are longer. So instead of playing like 5-10 minutes, why not just play 20 to 30 minutes and above length of games? I mean, after all, you want to improve. And so this is my suggestion for you. Most of the games that I play, specifically to study, I do them at 30 minutes. And that really helped me to improve, because then you're having more time to think and you're not having a time rush. And so that's very useful for me, at least. And if you want to continue to learn more, like here, like you've done just now, I've released quite a while ago, a few weeks ago, a video called The Dark Method to Improve at Chess. And there I talk specifically about how to blunder less and the importance that it has on one's games. This is basically a shorter video where a lot of the people that have watched it, some of them have said already to me in person and in the comments that they've improved from that. And so I think that you're going to also improve from watching this video. Well, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, of course, leave them down below and I'll do best to answer them. And yeah, go to learn on the next video. Peace.